welcome all. My name is Abdelkader Benali and I will be your host during this program, What's Cooking in Europe, as a part of the Festival Forum on European Culture. Once again, welcome in Amsterdam. This year, the festival theme is We the People. I will enter into a conversation this morning with two internationally acclaimed chefs to speak about identity and culinary traditions. I'm very excited about this. Already saying this makes me hungry. I want to welcome everybody present here live at the Bali. Hallo, dag iedereen. And you, of course, watching us through the live stream across Europe and beyond. So, what does our food say about our identity and culture? And in what ways can chefs influence culinary traditions? We are going to discuss these very interesting topics and questions with Joris Bijdendijk, famous from Rijksmuseum, who was awarded a couple of years ago 1 Michelin star. How old are you, Joris?
36.
And how old were you when you got the Michelin star?
The first one when I was 28, and the second one, I think I was about 31.
Okay, so as a chef, you're already there.
I was lucky.
You were lucky. No, you were not lucky. Well, maybe we're going to talk about this. And welcome, Joris. And we're tuning in from San Sebastian is Elena Arzak. She is a chef from the Arzak family restaurant that has been there for already 120 years. Hi.
Hi.
Elena.
Hola.
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 Yeah. How do you? I think you speak Basque. You speak some Basque. Kaixo. Well, your cooking is famous all over the world. You're a culinary superstar. 3 Michelin stars in your family restaurant for a very long time now, and you're being seen as one of the best female chefs worldwide. So let's start with you. Before we go into talking about your signature dishes and what makes your restaurant cooking, we're going to watch a short video of Elena.
Z is for zenith, for the height of flavor. To know us is to know our respect for original flavors. If it's not delicious, it has no place at our table. Y is for yolk, for the beginning, the egg. For yin and for yang, balance, the core, the essence. X marks the spot, Basque, our secret ingredient, that intangible thing from here. W is for wasabi, Japan, Peru, Nikkei, crossroads, contrasts, opposites attract. V is for vanguard, our food is about evolution and risk, trying, failing, starting over, and then tasting and discussing and trying again until we can feel it. U is for umami, sweet, salty, bitter, acidic. T is for time, seasonality, sustainable production, awareness, supporting a community. S is for sensations and sentiments. R is for roots that help us grow, move forward, and fly without losing sight of our origins. Q is for quality time around a table with friends, strangers, or just by ourselves. P is for pioneers. O is for Ungriatori, welcome in Basque. We cook for our guests, and their opinion is what matters most. Enye, that mysterious letter that lives on in the children we once were. It feeds our curiosity, zest for experimentation, and playfulness. N is for new Basque cuisine, a path forged by a crazy few and now embraced by a whole nation, which has put us on the worldwide gastronomic map. M is for market. All of our dishes start every morning in La Brecha and San Martin, doing the shopping, chatting with the farm ladies and the fishmongers. L is for laboratory, for Shabi, Igor, Elena, and Juan-Mari. For a test kitchen that does an infinite number of experiments to create 50 new dishes a year. K is for knowledge, respecting our local products. J is for joyous, for jam-packed days, jazzy nights, and joyful reunions. I is for intensity, for a cuisine born of a proud and intense land. H is for heritage and humility, memory, respect, because the essence of who we were lives on in the flavors of what we make. G is for good food, good flavors, good taste. F is for fulfillment. We push ourselves, we create, we innovate, and we take risks, but we never forget that none of this makes any sense if we don't transmit our own happiness and fulfillment. E is for extrapolate. Read, pick, choose, or steal knowledge and experiences from art, nature, design, literature, movies, people in life, and apply them to our dishes. D is for Donosti, San Sebastian. C is for cooking. We're cooks, and that's how we want to be remembered. Fame has forced us out of the kitchen, but as soon as we can, we'd rather be back there among the clatter of pans and heat of the stove. B is for Big Wall of Flavor, an archive of tastes with more than 1,500 products from every corner of the world. An archive that lets us be rich in experiences and without which we couldn't cook. A is for Aita, Ama, Amona, and for Elena, for a family that's been cooking in this house since 1897. A is for Athak.
I mean, this is not a restaurant. It's a museum of food. There is so much history, passion, tradition, heritage, hospitality there. I consider you both more as artists than as just, what I'm doing in the kitchen. I want to go to you, Elena. You were born in a very culinary family. I read somewhere that's actually your grandmother who established the family name because after the death of her husband, she had to carry on herself in the 50s, 60s. Is this true?
See, the restaurant was founded, first of all, hi everybody.
Hello.
I'm very happy to be with you and that you invite me to take part in this forum that I find is a genius idea. Coming back to my family history, I'm the fourth generation. My grandmother took over the restaurant. She got widowed very young and she was a chef in the popular way, and she was specialized in banquets, and she was a great chef. My great-grandparents, my great-grandmother was also a chef, and then after my grandmother, my father. So, as you can see, and you pointed, there is a lot of history behind. But what we don't forget is we are chefs. We like to be chefs, like Joris, and is in the blood. I'm happy you could show the video because it's, for me, very sentimental video, and I wanted to share with everybody.
It brings a lot of sentiments also to us here in Amsterdam, but I want to say something about your grandmothers, great-grandmother, all chefs. It puts some responsibility on the shoulders. Was this idea of stepping in, becoming a culinary professional yourself, was it something you considered from an early age, or did you have to get there?
No, I did consider from the early age. When you belong to a family where the food is the most important, some of the children get contagious and others not. Of course, it was completely free that I chose. And for example, my sister is historian of art, and she is very specialized in art and adult gastronomy. She has become our advisor in art and gastronomy, but she likes history and she likes art. So they never push me. And when you are free to do something, it's always good because they don't push you. Okay. And so I started and I told my parents, don't worry if I don't like that or it's not the idea I had. I will change very quick and very fast to something else. But, if you adore the gastronomy and the cooking, you never want to stop it.
Yeah. I say this because I know from chefs and people who cater that it's very, very hard work. You have no personal life in a way. So your commitment has to be like 200%. And that brings me to this maybe an intimate question. What was the first dish or food you tasted that made you say, I want to become a chef? A particular dish?
See, I remember when I was a child, the chefs, not only now, before, all the chefs in the world, they had a very important rule and very important idea that is not the waste in the kitchen about food, because ethical, a chef doesn't want to have waste. So, in all the experiments that made my father in the restaurant that were left, they brought them home. No, I see a part of my sister and me, we were very close, and we went every day to the restaurant. So from one side there, flavors like boiling crabs or rice milk that we have been in the mind. But I think I was 6 years old the first time I tried truffle, ginger, or even a Chinese orange. No, because everything was left.
Yeah.
And so all these flavors, nobody knew, but we needed to finish them at home. So imagine during 3 days having fish with truffle, bread with truffle, because and in the beginning, the truffle for me was a taste like earth.
Yeah.
The first bite, I didn't like it, and after 2 days, I adored.
Wow.
And today is the day that I adore truffle, for example.
And what about ginger?
Ginger, I use a lot. In our way of cooking, there is a way of cooking where the Basque, there are some ingredients that we like best and others worst. It doesn't mean that we have the truth of everything. I don't like, nobody's right in the flavor, but it's your attitudes.
Okay.
And for example, we like parsley, we like garlic, we like olive oil, but ginger belongs to one of the spices that are not Basque from abroad that we adore. So I use ginger to everything, and so did my father.
Okay.
My father did a study because he is very adventurous of Chinese food, and he introduced a lot of ginger in our food.
Oh, I have to say, your restaurant is in San Sebastian. You go all over the world, but I found out that San Sebastian has the highest density of Michelin stars in the world. Incredible. Your father, of course, taught you this tradition of the family, but is your style different from your father's?
From one side, the flavor is very similar. We don't know, perhaps because we belong to the same family. Some people say that you can heritage. I don't really know. Some experts say the flavor you can heritage, or others say you can train it. Perhaps I'm the three of them. I train it, perhaps I heritage. I think you can heritage a little bit, but the training is very important.
Yeah.
And for me, it's important that you like it. You like to eat. If you don't like to eat, you cannot become a chef, no? But the difference, especially, is in the generation of my father, they did a composition of plates where the plate, and they did very nicely, had many, many ingredients. My generation is more with less ingredients, more strong flavors. And so it's more simple, not simple, but less full.
Yeah.
And in Joris, it's even less. I saw in his so nice recipe, there are not so many ingredients. So I think the future is going to have an apparently simplicity and taking value.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that what they did before was not right.
Yeah.
You understand? It's the changing of the world.
But your generation, I'm going to talk with this, thank you, with Joris, is you brought this essential cooking in a way, you almost made it mainstream because it has become part of our everyday life to think about pure tastes. I think that's very interesting that you mentioned this. And I'm going to Joris for now because there's also a video of you. Dutch culinary tradition. How does that feel?
That's what we try to do.
Yeah.
We are always in search for beautiful products and producers from the Netherlands, because it's logic to work with stuff from not too far away.
Why is this so important for you?
It's part of our, let's call it our philosophy. It's also because we are based in the Rijksmuseum, where you have all the culture heritage of the Netherlands. And we're kind of the place where you find the culinary heritage of the Netherlands. And of course, it's not a coincidence that I became the chef there, because it was already part of my idea of cooking. Doesn't mean that we don't use ginger, that we don't use wasabi, etc., because we love those flavors as well. But first, we look around the corner if we can find something before we go elsewhere.
Elena named parsley as a typical Basque ingredient in a restaurant. What is your typical Dutch ingredient you cannot do without in your cuisine?
Cheese is very typical.
So do you put cheese in desserts?
Not in desserts, but pre-desserts. Pre-desserts, yeah, and in savory dishes. But yeah, we're pretty proud on the beautiful Gouda cheeses we have in the Netherlands, and all these very strong aged cheeses.
Yeah, we have amazing cheese. It's incredible. When friends come from abroad, they don't want to go to a Rijksmuseum, or they want to go to the cheese shop.
Exactly. Yeah, and you have to watch out, because there are good cheese shops and there are bad cheese shops.
Okay, give me the good addresses later on.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's also, so these are the traditional flavors. Well, and there's a big question, when do you call something traditional? Yeah. Because the history of cheese is long, but the history of Gouda cheeses and Leidse cheeses is relatively long. But there's also the new flavors. For example, the dish where we will talk about later, I use this Dutch soya sauce. So soya sauce, of course, is not typical Dutch, but the guys that make these soya sauce jumped in the Japanese tradition, and they managed to create, as the only one in Europe, a traditional brewed soya sauce with Dutch ingredients. So.
And then you mix it with cheese, or is all cheese?
No, we use this in several sauces,
okay,
because it just gives an umami punch. Yeah,
that's what we want, umami punch. Elena, it comes from a heritage of cuisiniers. You are the new kid on the block, a boy from the hood outside who wanted to become a chef.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, in my family, we love food as well, but we don't have professional chefs in the family. We've got lovers of food in the family. And my parents, I grew up in Amsterdam, and my parents bought this farm, I think about 35 or 40 years ago in Belgium, like 3.5 hours drive from Amsterdam. And a real farm needs to live. So we had to go to Belgium every Friday after school with all my brothers to work on the farm. And if you have a farm and you have a vegetable garden, you use those vegetables and you use that garden. So that was kind of a standard to use our own vegetables, and kind of a luxury as well. And I think that's the first, like the seed that became my passion actually. All my brothers and all in my family, everyone loves food. But when I started as a dishwasher in a restaurant, and I saw like what you could also do with a chicken, or also could do with veal bones, that for me was the moment that I thought like, wow, that's next level, and I want to make that second step.
And what attracted you in that? What was it that you could see, that chicken is being brought in and it has been turned through different hands into something incredibly delicate and delicious? Was that it, the transformational process of it?
I could see the similarities between home cooking and restaurant cooking. And the similarities were that in both places we were using quality ingredients. But the magic that chefs do in restaurants triggered me. And especially if you asked Elena what was the first time you thought like, I want to become a chef, for me it was when a chef gave me a spoon of broth. Like I was working there for a couple of days a week, and there were veal bones came in, he shoved them in the oven, roasted them. I thought like, what are you going to do with veal bones?
Oh yeah.
and put them in a big pot, cook it for a couple of days, reduced it, and then he gave me a spoon of veal broth.
Oh, this is so good. Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
And that for me was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Sorry.
The savory, salty.
Yes, and
it's
umami.
Like wet all over. Yeah.
And it's like so full of flavor. And that for me was like, okay, wow, this is kind of magic. I want to learn that.
I want to live for this. Yeah. So, I'm now into the broth. But we're going to talk about recipes, because both of you brought 2 recipes. Joris, you made this beautiful cookbook. I have it at home when it came out. I was the first one to buy it. It's on my bookshelf. It's like a status object. Elena, you brought a recipe. I think you also made cookbooks, Elena.
Sí.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to get them very soon. Elena, what is your recipe? Because you brought a recipe that says something about European cuisine, that represents European identity.
So I need to admit, when you pose the question, sorry about the pronunciation of your name, Abdelkader.
Perfect.
Abdelkader?
Yes.
Because it's the origin Berber, we are Basque, and he said it could be something between us.
I understand Basque fluently.
I'm happy.
Azul.
So, agur.
Yeah.
No, then when you asked me to do that, wow, it was a big question. That question is so wide and so interesting that could be for one book.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So I said it could be a supposed European recipe.
Yeah.
Because, it's not the same. Being from San Sebastian is not the same being from Amsterdam.
Yeah. So what makes it European is that it is the fact that it's super, super local.
See, I try to combine. I use a mackerel that exists in different food cultures in whole Europe, even in the Atlantic Sea and in the Mediterranean Sea and in the Nordic countries. Yeah. So this is why I use a fish that from one side is very local, that Joris was pointing that is important to the chefs, and also using ingredients like is marinated in apple vinegar that also exists in whole Europe. And the mackerel is also with tomato. And the tomato is dry tomato mixed with fresh tomato. The tomato is, for me, a very interesting ingredient because before it didn't exist in Europe. Yeah. And we adopted it from America. And this is, for me, very important to understand that with the history of the food, some ingredients, because people move, the culture is moving, the migration is very important today, is products that don't belong to our culture stay forever, like the tomato, for example.
Is it your signature dish, Elena? This is a recipe you invented, or is it something that was already around in families and now you're using you made it into a Michelin star dish?
It's something we invented not long ago, very few time ago, and for me had all the resume of everything you wanted. No, from one side has the tradition of the local fish and supporting the suppliers, the fishmongers. Also, the respect of the tomato, the ingredients, and also as technique. The technique is because we use a broth that is with collagen. We extract the collagen of the fish bones and the skin, that you need to be very precise and you need innovation and technique. And we discover like a seaweed that is a sea grape, very special in texture. So for me, that plate is, this is why I chose it, is a plate that resumes everything that could be European and that people could understand.
Can I make this recipe at home?
I think so. If you don't get the sea grapes, because I can see you like to try to cook, use another seaweed.
Elena, sea grapes are now produced in the Netherlands. So we are.
Wow.
So it's
They're produced in the Netherlands, sea
yes,
grapes.
Joris.
Just a month ago.
I want absolutely, when it's possible, 1 bottle of your soy sauce.
I will send
Because
it to
the
you.
Dutch soy sauce, I'm sure, is really great.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're having European chefs exchange on the highest level. I'm out.
No, you also. You can also, you pointed the cheese. The cheese for me is one of my favorite meals. So all the guests from Holland that come to Arzak, some of them bring all me cheese. So it's to remind them that please, when they come back, that they bring me the cheese. Once I was in a food congress in Zwolle, organized by Johnny Bohr and Therese. And it was really also with a lot of producers, farmers. And it was really very interesting. In Holland, you respect a lot the nature. I'm happy about. And in that Congress, it was called Chef Revolution. I came back with my suitcase full of cheese. So please don't forget it. Eh?
Okay, good. Okay, I want to talk about one ingredient. Can the recipe go 1 page black, please? Please, because I want to talk about this incredible addition of 85 grams of toasted hazelnut. And I think hazelnut is a delicious thing to have in food, but I never thought that you could put it in a mackerel.
Normally, when you do a recipe, don't forget that in our case, we want to have pleasure and flavor. No, we are rethinking all the time to have again all the pleasure that the food can add you. And, the chefs that we learn to be creative, we know that the only way is to taste, to try and to taste. And why not to use hazelnut and almonds? In the Basque and in the Spanish food, we adore dry fruits. And because for us is something that also we like mushrooms. For me, the way of mushrooms and the way of dry fruits is can be very similar. So, but what is important is that everything you use, you like it. Also, you need to find the balance. Imagine a vinaigrette has vinegar, salt, and olive oil. You need to know the basis, like Joris was saying before about the broth. And you can substitute the vinegar of my vinaigrette for lemon juice, or another citrus or another acidity. So I don't like that people think we mix for mixing. Of course, I cannot explain exactly all the ingredients because I like, you understand? But for me, the whole recipe needs to be happiness and have a flavor.
Yeah, I can see the fat, mackerel, fat fish, and the hazelnut. It's already coming somewhere here. Beautiful. Thank you, Elena, for sharing this with us. I'm going to try it and send you a picture. Joris, you also chose a recipe out of your restaurant, or
Yes.
your signature dish. What is it?
Yeah, first of all, as Elena also mentioned, the question of what is a typical European dish? That question was so difficult that I think that the answer is also...
Why is it difficult?
Because there's, first of all, let's say 4 big, well-known, well-promoted cuisines in Europe, mostly Mediterranean, so Italy, France, south of France, Mediterranean, but France and Spain. And of course, there's this new movement, the Nordic cuisine. And there are not a lot of similarities. There's not like a Nordic, Spanish, Italian, French dish that you can...
But I have the feeling something is cooking.
Definitely. No, but so the answer to the question is, of course, a symbolic answer. And it's also, what is this dish to me? And the dish I chose is one of our signature dishes with beetroot and this sauce with this beautiful tomasu soya sauce.
So beetroot for me, it's rode biet, eh?
Rode biet,
Okay,
yes.
wow.
So, and beetroot is one of the few vegetables in the Netherlands that is actually from the Netherlands.
Yeah. Okay.
Like all these aubergine, courgette, potato, tomato, etc.
Yeah.
A lot of beans.
Yeah.
They don't come originally from the Netherlands. So beetroot is. So
Okay.
that's why I picked beetroot. And it's such a humble vegetable.
Yeah.
And we try to prepare it in a way to give it so much more podium, so much more flavor. So we slice it in thin slices, cook it in its own juice, reduce the juice so you get a really strong flavor. Everyone that tastes this dish doesn't need any meat.
Yours, I'm going to add a word to the taste of beetroot, which is sandy. It's a bit, this.
It can be aard, it can be earthy.
Yeah.
But if you,
how do you deal?
I would say if you confit the beetroot long enough, it becomes salmiak.
Okay.
And I don't know the word in English,
Yeah.
but and together with this beurre blanc, this fatty sauce flavored with the soya sauce, you don't need more. And I have to admit that 5 years ago, I didn't feel confident enough to serve it like this. So, like Elena said, like I also was trained with plates with a lot of ingredients. So the first time we had this dish on the menu was like 4 or 5 years ago. There was the same sauce, there was a kind of preparation of beetroot, but also many more. So there was a beetroot puree, a beetroot sweet and sour, a raw beetroot, a puffed beetroot in salt crust or whatever, with some salads, with some vinegars and vinaigrettes, etc., and the sauce. And then we had a lot of talks about like what is the essence of a dish. And if you talk about this beetroot dish, we were talking about it and we said, okay, it's the beetroot, the right preparation of beetroot with the right sauce, and that's it. Okay, why do we serve all the rest?
Yeah.
And that's how this dish became like this.
So you made this dish. It's one. I actually had it in the. I was invited to eat. Of course, I had to be invited to get a seat at the table, and I had this dish. It was it's bomb. Amazing. But you make this dish, you create it as an artist, then you have to, it's on exposition for the first time. Do you stand in the room and see how the reactions are in the faces?
Yes, we really want to know what guests say and think. Sometime, like this week, one of my colleagues created a beautiful dessert made of the flour of topinambour, of Jerusalem artichoke. There's a lot of flavor in it, and I think it combines really well with sweet flavors. But I really wonder how our guests will respond. Because
so what do? You stand in a corner and with binoculars?
First we serve it to our regular guests and listen to their
You can always
opinion.
call me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then they come and they sit.
Yes, and we are very curious how they react, because we know that they are honest with us, and the flavors that we in the kitchen we like. We eat so many stuff all year long, all day long. We go out for dinner. We go to restaurants like Arzak, creative restaurants. So we love to explore new flavors, and many people love to stick to the flavors they know. So we have to find a balance in that as well.
Yeah. Wonderful. Back to Elena. Hello.
Was listening. Very interesting.
Have you been in the restaurant? Have you been in the Rijks?
Not yet. I've been in the museum because I like museums. And I was many years ago, last time in Amsterdam, and I went to the bar that was there, but not to Joris.
Okay.
But I need to go. I need to go completely, because I need to congratulate such a nice recipe, and looks so, it's so sensible. The colors, I want to eat that. And what you explain is really is my way. I like this type of recipes.
I want you to come to Amsterdam and to the Rijksmuseum, and I want to be part of the energy. So, Elena, you come from Basque country, which has this pincho culture. I mean, I remember in the 90s, suddenly pincho was popping up all over the world. You have been, and this cuisine has been refined again and refined. What you sometimes think about cultures with a deep culinary tradition is that they're very conservative and not open to change. But to me, it seems Basque cuisine is very much open to change. Can you explain this to me? Why there's this openness? Because of the sea? Because of the people?
Nobody. I'm talking about gastronomy, but in general, nobody knows why in the Basque area, the Basque country, are so many good restaurants, Michelin star restaurants, or even the tapas, the pinchos bars. Everybody adores the food. Yeah. I think that from one side, we are geographically very well connected. Then from other side, the relation to the farmers has been, and the suppliers has been always very tight. Then the revolution that made my father and the colleagues in the 70s, 80s, like you said, was also very important for the evolution. And also we are people in the Basque area, we are people that want to go further always. We like innovation, we like from one side to respect the essence of our traditions from our cultures, doesn't disappear, but always innovating with the time. No? So nobody knows exactly why. I think we are very fortunate. Yeah. And there is a lot of creativity, not only in the food, in many other areas, in the culture, in the Basque area. This is, I think, can be one of the reasons.
Yeah, I also understood that Arzak, your family restaurant, the local people come to eat. They come in shorts and you know in their casual wear. It's like a family. It's almost like it's 3 stars Michelin, but it looks like people say it looks like a family restaurant, like in the neighborhood.
See, for us, we don't want to have social classes in the restaurant. So we want that for us, the food is so important. And for the people in San Sebastian, that of course, someone that has more economical possibilities comes more often. But there are a lot of people that are really normal from a social media class, that they earn money. It belongs to our culture. Yeah. Even my friends from school, the colleagues, they earn money and go once a year to one of the restaurants. For other people that still could be too much money, they make presents to imagine a gift voucher to someone, but everybody comes with no complex. Everybody understands a lot, and we treat everybody the same. It's very funny to see the difference, and we think that's the real life. The real life, if you go on the street, look at the street. People are completely different from each other. Yeah. So why not to bring that to the restaurants? No, we are very proud of that.
Yeah. So thank you, Elena. What Elena says, Joris, about that eating out is part of celebrating a local culture, national culture. It's a way of bringing people together, and it may cost something. This is not typical for Dutch culture.
You're right.
So how did you got the Dutch, to come into your restaurant with the same spirit, or wasn't it? Was it?
Well, first of all, if you look at our government. And you compare it, for example, with the government of France. In France, agriculture and food is part of the Ministry of Culture. In the Netherlands, the agriculture is part of the Ministry of Economics. Yeah. So this is one thing that we have to deal with.
So you're in the wrong department.
The Dutch see food as money, not as culture. Yeah. Yeah. And this is a long road.
It's true.
And a deep dive and something hard to change. Yeah. But I have to say that in the past 5 to 8 years, a lot have changed.
This reminds me something of my father. He's a butcher in Rotterdam, And that when he came to Holland, this whole first generation, they would always go out to the local markets and all the fish market, and they would buy beautiful fish, you know, mackerel and all kind of fish. There was such abundance, but you would never hear the Dutch talk about this. It was seen like something, you know, was taken for granted. Well, for us, it was like, wow, we have so much coming in from outside, but also the local fishes.
Yeah.
Vegetables, and affordable.
Yeah. So you know, we are changing, and there's more. There's a young generation of chefs We've got more and more good restaurants on different levels, and so something is changing in the Netherlands. But yes.
But then you have this restaurant Rijks, high stakes, and then you start serving Dutch food. Was there something of a risk in that you thought, is the Dutch eater going to accept the fact that what I'm going to give to him is local?
I don't think there was a risk. I think the Dutch like to explore new things, and I think the Dutch would like to be proud of what they have, but they just don't know, because there's all the good food that we export, and there's a lot of food that we import. And the popular restaurants back in the days, like 20 years ago, were the Chinese restaurants, Italian restaurants, or Spanish restaurants. And nowadays, this new, like, let's call it the fourth generation of chefs, because the first real generation was in the 80s, and with Cas Spijkers, which was a famous chef. And I think I'm being part of the fourth generation of chefs, which is a big group of chefs that really want to find out what are the good products from our own soil, from our own waters, from the Netherlands. And they put it on the menu, and the people, they love it. The people that go out for dinner, they love to explore that, and they love to know it. And everyone is like, wow, when they taste this sauce with the tomasu soya sauce, and they say, where can I buy it? So they're open, but we need to learn.
In a way, you're also civilizing the industry. You're creating new ideas, homegrown, and you're saying, look what we can do, what is possible. So in a way, you inspire a lot of people. Do you feel that this is happening?
Let's hope. I don't know, but I think a lot of people love the fact that we are cooking this local.
You know, Elena, we have this thing in Holland called pindakaas, peanut butter. It's very Dutch, and you know, back in the days, peanut butter, you ate it, but nowadays, peanut butter has become like a millennial thing. You know, it's very much en vogue. All kind of peanut butters, and it tastes very good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Suddenly, people, you know, like microbreweries, you know.
Yeah.
You know, all this, and I think Joris, you're maybe a bit too shy in your generation too. I think you're very important for these young people who in a way who look at you and see how daring you are and what you do, and that you in a way can see that what you're opening a new path. Do you get responses from young people about how you work and what you do?
Of course, we've got a lot of students that apply for a job in the restaurants, which is a good thing, and we cannot take them all, but we can kind of teach and take 4 students a year. And it's a good thing that we are invited as chefs to forums and to symposiums all over the world to share our philosophy. So in that way, I can see that people are interested in what we do.
Yeah. Okay, I think time goes fast. We still have 10 minutes. I'm going to Elena. I'm going to the roundup. So how important is the Michelin star for you, Elena? How important are those 3 stars?
My father got the 3rd Michelin star in the year 1989.
How old were you then?
So I was.
You were, of course, a little child.
No.
Oh no.
I'm not so young as you think. I feel very young. I don't mind to say I'm 51, and I'm very proud of my age. And I was at that time. I was studying in Switzerland in a hotel school in Lucerne, in the Swiss German part. And so I received a phone call. It was my father. Before was no mobiles, you know, my father phone. And me, what happens? Elena, we got the 3rd Michelin star. I was 19 years old. And so, you know, I'm so scared because, I don't know how many years I'm going to keep them. And every year I tell him, do you remember that phone call? And today is the day we had that start since the year 89. So from one side, of course, is a big proud because it's every year to get like a super prize. And to keep it is not easy. You need completely dedication to that. From one side, people is the most important guide in the world, and people come to the restaurant because of that guide, and because of the Michelin guide, we need to admit.
Yeah.
And we need to, some people ask, you don't feel too much pressure? Of course, there's always pressure, but for me, the pressure is necessary. If you don't have pressure, you relax. No, you relax. You stay in your comfortable area, and you less and less and less.
Elena, what is your secret? You look beautiful. You speak so passionately. But I know, having a restaurant on that level, it's like Champions League final every day.
See.
So how do you stay sane?
From one side is good food. I eat very well.
Okay.
I promise you.
Yeah.
See. Since the beginning, since I was a child, my parents were purists of the food. So we ate very natural, my sister and me. And then it's also a little bit genetic. But, I feel happy in my life. There are some days, of course, I'm also tired. But I adore my profession. And, you need to be, especially in these times, to be positive. Yeah. But I'm not joking. Good food and to learn to eat well is very, very important. So everybody to eat beetroot and mackerel. I'm not joking.
Elena, you have children. You have children, I'm right?
See, they are teenagers now, 15 and 13.
Is there a fifth generation coming?
I don't know. I cannot force them. I need to wait. For the moment, they are like all of them in the world.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah,
no, but also, my first pleasure is the food and the restaurant. Cool. But don't think I'm work maniatic a little bit, but I like art. Yeah. I like traveling. Traveling is very important. Yeah. I think, opens the mind to everybody. I like to eat pinchos. I like to... Thanks to my sister, for example, I went because we are in Holland. There is a very nice art musician that is called Edwin van der Heijden. Please listen to them. He does spectacles and this type of things of sound. I repeat, Edwin van der Heijden is so incredible.
Edwin van der Heijden. Yeah.
See, sorry for my pronunciation.
No.
But go to the Rijksmuseum, go walking, do something a part of your job, be multifunctional. Learn to be like having back the surprise of your childhood. Please do something nice. Before, I was only looking for the food. And now I learn to see other nice things in the world.
Beautiful. Thank you, Elena. Very encouraging. You said pinchos. The way you say pinchos makes me hungry again. Yeah, it's a very simple guy here. I'm turned to you, Joris. You did something incredible because Corona came. You had to shut down the restaurant. And you also had to fire your wife.
Yes.
How did you? Where and when did you tell her?
We're still together.
I have to. You're fired.
That's where you have to separate private and.
She works in a restaurant.
Yeah, she was working in my second restaurant, and of course we had to lock down the restaurant, etc., etc. And we had to let go, unfortunately, some of our colleagues with a temporary contract. And it would have been very hypocrite and strange if I would have said, like, okay, you can stay, but you guys have to go. So yes, of course, it sounds a bit dramatic. I fired my wife.
How did you? Now tell me the concrete situation. You said to her, take a seat, darling.
I even think she asked me. It's like, okay, so this is the moment you have to tell me that I cannot work here anymore. I think, yeah, I think you're right, baby.
But then she did something wonderful. I read an interview in Vogue. You have a balcony, and she started having a balcony garden.
Yes.
It's also something people are doing. My wife has also a balcony garden. She has green fingers. It's incredible what the things that grow out of it. But your wife started a marijuana
yes, well, not only weed and marijuana, but yes. So, of course, Corona is horrible, and but okay, there are also positive sides of Corona. We were forced to stay in, and my wife started, like a hortus at home, and also 5 beautiful marijuana plants with all the sun we had this summer. They did very well. I'm not a smoker, but we created a little factory almost.
I think your wife should start a 3rd restaurant, call it the balcony.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been a success.
Yeah. So you did something very. You started doing a takeaway.
Yes.
To survive Corona, you started delivering at home.
Yes. Yeah. So before we had to lock down on the 15th of March, we were following our colleagues from Asia and from Italy, and we were always 2 weeks behind. Everything that happened in the Netherlands, 2 weeks later, everything that happened in Italy and Asia, 2 weeks later, it happened in the Netherlands. And we saw that our good friends and chefs and colleagues from that part of the world started with takeaway during the lockdown. So we thought, the week before we had the lockdown, we thought we're going to do takeaway as well, even though we are not in a lockdown yet. Yeah. And that was the right decision. So 2 or 3 days before we had the lockdown, we kicked off with takeaway. And then on the Sunday, the 15th, our Prime Minister said that the restaurant needed to close. And the day after, it exploded.
Wow.
The takeaway exploded.
Really?
And we served, I think, about 25,000 people during lockdown.
What this tells me is how emotionally attached people are to good food.
Especially during lockdown.
Yeah. And you also, people start making pictures of the food they had and then post it on Instagram.
Yes, so we invited them as well to do that. So, of course, we sent it like a QR code with explanations of the food. And we asked the people to, because we wanted to stay in contact with our guests. That was one of our main reasons to start with takeaway. Like, imagine that you cannot bring your guests to the restaurant anymore. We want to stay in touch with them, so let's try to keep on cook for them, and let's try to keep the conversation. And that's a digital conversation. Oh. So everyone was sharing their way of, like, they were dressed up. People put their wedding dress and stuff like that on. They put everything on the table with candles, candlelight and everything, and they took photos, put it on the Instagram. It was amazing.
Yeah. What was the dish that made it to the top?
I think the beetroot, actually.
The beetroot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the gazpacho.
And the green gazpacho.
Green gazpacho.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why?
But I'm afraid to talk about gazpacho with a Spanish three-star
yeah.
chef.
Oh yeah, we are afraid to talk about gazpacho.
No, I'm confident that I can serve her my gazpacho as well.
So we have a date when this pandemic has calmed down. We can travel again. I'm coming with my family to San Sebastian. To visit the restaurant of Elena, and Elena is coming to the Rijks, and we want to be there. We want to come and see and share your stories, because there's a wonderful synergy going on here. I would like to thank both of you for joining me and sharing your ideas. We continue here, ladies and gentlemen, with some questions from the live audience. And I want to thank you for your attention. The Forum on European Culture continues. Please check the website for the full program. We are back online at 1:30 p.m. with the program Power to the People. I hope to see you then. Goodbye.